we're working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Hello and welcome to ASEAN in Focus, delivering to you the latest news in and around the ASEAN region. I'm Maricar Velasco. Indonesia on Friday wrapped up the grim task of identifying Lion Air jet crash victims from recovered body parts with a preliminary report on the cause of the accident that killed 189 people due next week. The Boeing 737 MAX jet, one of the world's newest and most advanced commercial planes, plunged into the Java Sea on October 29 shortly after taking off from capital Jakarta to Pangkal, Pinang City, killing all on board. Since then, investigators have been doing DNA testing on recovered body parts. As of Friday, 125 people have been identified after testing on human remains that filled some 200 body bags. This according to Arthur Tomby, head of the National Police Medical Center. He adds, they have identified 89 men and 36 women, including 2 foreigners, namely an Italian and an Indian national who was the flight's captain. The identification was being called off because of all the recovered remains have been tested. Budget carrier Lion Air has said it paying a little over $100,000 in compensation to the families of each crash victim. The smashed jet's flight data recorder was recovered, but divers are still looking for the cockpit voice recorder. A formal preliminary report on what might have caused the crash is due Wednesday. As desperation swells in the squalid camps that are home to 1 million Rohingya refugees, long dormant and often deadly, trafficking networks are being revived, Bangladesh officials warn. Smugglers operating rickety fishing boats prey on the hopes of people who fled violence in Myanmar, charging them small fortunes for a dangerous journey to Southeast Asia, offering an empty promise of a fresh start. The first vessel to depart Bangladesh for Malaysia since the end of the monsoon was intercepted by law enforcement, who warn others will follow. Many in the heaving Rohingya ghettos of Cox's Bazar feel they have no other option but to try to escape, community leaders and aid workers say. A deal to safely return the persecuted Muslims to Myanmar has failed, condemning them to limbo and deprivation in fetid camps where they are barred from leaving or looking for work to improve their lot. Sensing a surge, Coast Guard patrols have been stepped up since the first boat was detected in November in the Bay of Bengal, said Iqbal Hussain, Deputy Police Chief in Cox's Bazar. Another boatload of refugees who fled a camp in Myanmar were found off the country's southern coast in November after spending 15 days at sea in a failed attempt to reach Malaysia. Hossain said as the sea turns calm, the smuggling rackets have resumed their activities, but they have a zero-tolerance attitude toward human trafficking. He said traffickers were difficult to detect in the teeming hills where more than 720,000 Rohingya sought refuge after a brutal crackdown by the Myanmar military in August 2017. Protesters in Myanmar's troubled Rakhine state demonstrated Sunday against the planned repatriation of Rohingya Muslims from Bangladesh, referring to them as runaway refugees. About 100 people marched through the state capital, Sitwe, holding red banners and chanting slogans. According to a live video streaming of the protest, one protester said there will be no benefits to their country if they accept the Bengalese. Bengali is a derogatory term for the Rohingya in Myanmar that falsely implies they are newcomers from Bangladesh. The demonstrator comes 10 days after Bangladesh and Myanmar were supposed to officially start repatriating members of the Rohingya minority who had fled violent military operations in August 2017. Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh said Myanmar's armed forces raped women, murdered their relatives, and burned down their houses in a bid to drive them permanently out of the country after decades of persecution. The deal to bring them back was struck a year ago, but Rohingya and Bangladesh camps fear returning without guarantees of citizenship, safety, and equal access to health care and education. They also are wary of hostility from the non-Muslim residents in Rakhine. The protesters in Sittwe on Sunday reflected that view, holding signs that included calls for authorities to not allow resettling of the runaway refugees in parts of northern Rakhine state. Senator Laila de Lima on Monday, November 26, is seeking a Senate probe into what she said was a military takeover of the Bureau of Customs. De Lima made the call months after President Rodrigo Duterte replaced Isidro La Peña with Rey Leonardo Guerrero, who had just retired as Armed Forces of the Philippines Chief of Staff. De Lima said in filing Senate Resolution number 949, the operationalization of the military takeover of the BOC threatened to violate the provisions of the Constitution on the prescription against the assumption by active military officers of civilian functions and civilian offices, aside from other basic principles of a Republican and democratic government as enshrined therein. According to De Lima, the militarization of the BOC may impede the operations of the BOC and as a result may gravely affect collection of revenues, the lifeblood of government.
Your EBC Las Vegas correspondent, reminding you that we should view every day as a new day. We should not let the troubles of the past hinder us in moving forward in life. And don't forget to watch Digital Nest on Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. only on Net 25. Again, I am Nicole Tongo and I am one with 25.
Pep News, Linggo, alas 4 hanggang alas 5 ng hapon.
will we keep the prices down?
Pero baka matulungan niyo ako dito. May kaibigan ako taga-Kapitolyo. Baka kilala niyo ho?
Welcome back to ASEAN in Focus. I'm Kaloy Tabunda from the New Era University ASEAN Studies Center. And we are honored today to have as our guest Kabayan Party List Representative Ron P. Salo, the Vice Chairman of the House Committee on Economic Affairs and Rural Development and the Deputy Majority Leader in the House Committee on Rules. He is also a member of the majority of several committees, including the House Committee on Overseas Workers Affairs. And today, in connection with that, we'll be discussing the proposal on the establishment of the Department of Migration and Development. Good afternoon, Congressman Ron.
Good afternoon, Dr. Kaloy. It's an opportunity for me to be here once again. I understand this is my second time to be a guest of yours in this very good program.
Okay. One of the main pillars of economic growth in the Philippines for the past many decades is, of course, we know it very well, the remittances coming from our overseas Filipino workers. But we know for a fact that our OFWs have been suffering from different issues, and one of them is the illegal recruitment issue. And we have a law against illegal recruitment, but despite this, many Filipinos still fall prey to some illegal recruiters, and they're still, despite that, there are Filipinos who desperately want to work abroad, and they are among those who are easily victimized. When this happens, not only money and effort is wasted, but there's a problem of the OFWs going back home. Why do you think this problem persists despite the existence of laws?
Well, as you've said, this particular problem persists despite the existence of laws because, of course, it's human nature. Human nature for people to, their focus is precisely to earn more money for themselves without considering the implications of their actions. So, of course, we have various laws against illegal recruitment. And, of course, we also have within the government a structure we call a coordinating mechanism led by the Department of Justice against illegal recruitment, Dr. Tabunda. So this particular interagency is tasked to ensure that those who fell victimized by illegal recruitment as well as those who are committing this illegal recruitment are put to justice, particularly those who are committing this. We know for a fact, as you mentioned, that those being victimized are not just about their resources that they've lost, but as well as their lives. So what we're saying is to ensure that this particular illegal recruitment, the drive against illegal recruitment would be strengthened. First, this should be undertaken partly also what we call the preventive part. And that particular preventive part would also focus more on the ability of those people who are falling victims of those illegal recruitment. So why do they thrive? Because in the first place, there are people who seek your services, these illegal recruiters. And of course, it should really be about education of the people who are falling victimized in this. So perhaps what we need for people is to really be educated. If the offer seems so good, too good to be true, then I suppose it's a red flag to them. It's an opportunity for them to check whether these particular recruiters are authorized by the government. So one of the things that they need to know by our people is to check, because there's a list of authorized recruiters. And these are usually being published by our government agencies. So they have to first check. Then oftentimes they are being approached by people who are promising a lot of things, that when they get this particular job for them, they will be earning this much. They simply have to pay this. But we also know that it's a no-no under the Philippine policy to pay before being recruited. So that's a red flag immediately the moment people are asking our kababayans to pay a certain sum just to get employed abroad.
But still, many Filipinos still get victimized, so there seems to be a problem in communication. So the question is, who should communicate this to our fellow Filipinos in order for them to not fall victim to these illegal recruiters?
Of course, as you mentioned, there's a concern with respect to the communications, and the communication thing should be handled, of course, by our agencies in charge of this particular policy on migration. And, of course, we have the POAA, who are in charge of those recruitment agencies. We have the OWA, who are in charge of the welfare of our people. Of course, these are under the Department of Labor and Employment. We also have our Department of Foreign Affairs, which are under the one country policy. Of course, they are the ones dealing with all the countries the moment they are Filipinos go outside the country.
Okay, you mentioned earlier you're the chairman of the technical working group on the creation of the Department of Migration and Development.
Yes.
What is this all about?
Basically, this particular technical working group is to simplify and to coordinate all the proposals being pending before the House Committee on Government Reorganization.
This is not a new proposal.
This is not a new proposal,
Okay.
as much as it's been filed for so many times by several congressmen, not just this particular Congress, but in previous Congresses. And the aim of this particular committee, department is to ensure that there's just one department to handle the concerns of our OFWs. We note for a fact that there are, on the average, around, of course, it varies the computation, but on the average, they're claiming that there are around 11 million OFWs. That's basically around more than 10%.
Actually, that's more than 10% of our Philippine population.
And of course, you add to that are the families of these OFWs. So more than 10% of our member of our population would have the benefit of this particular department. So it's a proposal to create one department to put under one roof various agencies of the government that deal with the concerns of the OFWs. What are those? The POA, the OWA,
Philippine Overseas Employment Administration.
Yes, the Overseas Welfare Administration. We also have within the Department of Labor and Employment an office that cater to the concerns of OFWs. We also have under the Department of Foreign Affairs an office, Office of Migration, that caters to our OFWs as well. So the proposal is to place them under one roof, and the Department of Labor is to focus on local employment, and this will focus on employment abroad. And it's the reason why under its name we call it Migration and Development, because it's not just about migration, Dr. Tabunda.
It's not just employment.
It's not just about employment. It's about the entirety of development. And the focus is from here, the moment they leave their places of work here, to go abroad. Of course, there's one department that will take care of their concerns, and also with repatriation concerns and reintegration. So basically, with respect to integration, they will be given the necessary skills as well. So even TESDA is being harnessed, its mandate as well as its resources is being harnessed in order to ensure that our kababayans, after coming from their work abroad, would be able to be reintegrated in society as well as given the necessary skills or perhaps retooled in order to meet local employment.
Okay, so let's make a rundown of the different agencies that will be affected. POA is actually under DOLE now, right?
Yes.
And OWA is also under DOLE now. And then there's this unit under DOLE that tackles OFW concerns. So they will come together under this new department.
And we also have concerns with...
and from the DFA also. So all of these quote-unquote agencies will be housed under this single department. Okay, this proposal has been there for many Congresses already. What do you think? What's the reason why it has not passed?
Of course, one of the concerns really there is the objection of certain within these particular agencies that are being... of course, the argument has always been, we've been doing it all along. Why do we need to create another department? So it's also a concern with respect to the reorganization.
Employees will be affected, definitely.
Yes, but at the same time, we have a policy now of streamlining our process in the government. Why do we have to create another department so as to address this particular concern? So these are matters that are basically not easy to provide an answer to, not easy to tackle. Of course, there are also concerns because our OFWs are not only land-based. We also have the sea-based. And of course, with respect to the sea-based, what they're telling us is we don't really have much concern as of the moment. What we're really having concerns are those in the land-based. And why do we need to transfer to this particular department that we're trying to create? And of course, if we're going to exclude them, it's a question also, why do we have to exclude all those sea-based? The only difference is that they are based in the sea, not on land. Why do we have to exclude them in the jurisdiction of this particular department? So these are among the concerns being raised.
So one of the functions of this proposed department is, of course, talking to our bilateral partners, I mean, the other countries on how the policy that should be adopted to protect the interests of overseas Filipino workers.
Yes, that's one of those. But of course, we wish also to ensure that this particular department would be active also, not just passive in looking for opportunities outside where our Filipinos would be, your rights would be greatly protected. So create new markets where the skills of the Filipinos of the harness as well as their rights would be protected as well.
But isn't this running counter to the, I'm sure there's no vision yet, or it's not been stated yet that Filipinos should stay here and, you know, they find their opportunities here. So how is this consistent with the dream of some Filipinos?
Actually, you're right in that particular regard, Dr. Kaloy, because one of the concerns really is in creating this particular department, one of the concerns that's being raised is that are we creating a policy or are we adopting a policy of migration of Filipinos to abroad rather than ensuring that our Filipinos would be able to stay here in the Philippines.
Our economy can sustain the livelihood of Filipinos here in the Philippines.
Yes, because we know for a fact that the moment a person migrates to other country, even if for temporarily, even for just 2 years, there's a disruption within society.
Social
disruption within the family and of course within society. So it's costly. Costly with the children, costly to the family, costly to society.
Are we not including the DSWD here because we're talking of social disruptions?
Of course, we understand, we note for far. We also remember that DSWD, when there was this particular issue on the contracts of our OFWs based in Saudi Arabia being cancelled, there are a lot of Filipinos who needed assistance. And we understand that the DSWD, before they were repatriated, they need social assistance there. So some employees and officials from the DSWD actually went there to provide those necessary assistance.
Okay, how positive are you that this bill will pass?
It's an uphill battle.
Okay.
I'll be honest. I'm one of the supporters of this particular department creation, in as much as this will really bear down to the benefit of our migrant workers as well as our of course, are the OFWs. But, of course, it's a reality also that not all people, the resource persons, the stakeholders are in unison, are united in having this particular department created.
Okay, so, thank you very much, Congressman Ronsalo, and we hope you will be here in one of our future episodes.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, back to you, Maricar.
And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Maricar Velasco and I am one with 25.